Former LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva joins me now. Alex, thanks for being here. This is going to be the largest single day of protests in President Trump's second term. How have local law enforcement, how have they prepared around the nation?
Well, ideally, every single one of these protest marches has a permit through their cities, their county, whatever their municipality looks like. And with the permits, then traffic is controlled. We have the highway patrol that's available, and they've been mustered at full strength, LAPD at full strength, Sheriff's Department full strength. But this is full strength. It is in a staffing crisis, so that is not very big. So a lot of this is going to rely on the cooperation of the people that are doing the marches, that they keep it civil. And you have to have mobile field forces ready on standby to be able to react to anything that turns violent from these protests. And you're going to have people marching within the protests that gives law enforcement feedback as to what the temperature is of the crowd and what they're proposing to do.
How do you think what's happened and what's transpired over the last week in LA is going to affect today?
Well, I think the people that were initiated the violence, the pushback they're getting from within the progressive movement, they realized that was very bad optics to destroy a city and then claim that they're doing something on behalf of the people. So I'm hoping that they're telling people, hey, protest peacefully, show that we can do it the right way, which would be a very good thing. And let's see, though, however, if they can control the fringe elements, which is the Antifa crowd. That is going to be the key right there. You've
got some cities like Philadelphia emphasizing, I would say, de-escalation. You have other places, though, emphasizing a show of strength. You've got Texas calling in the National Guard. You've got Florida also not calling the National Guard, but they've had very strong language about today's protests. Which strategy do you think is going to work best?
Well, it's going to be the one that's going to be balancing the right of people to assemble peacefully and have law enforcement support that and control that crowd so they're not under attack. And that is important, but then be able to distinguish with the people that start breaking up sidewalks with hammers to throw concrete at law enforcement. That right there is the distinction between the two. We were able to do that in 2020 successfully. I think we can do it again in 2025.
Alex, let's listen to this soundbite from the LA County Sheriff, Robert Luna.
We're going to come after you. That's going to continue. So if you're out there throwing rocks, Molotov cocktails, high-grade pyrotechnics, and all these other weapons, you're going to get caught and you're going to get arrested. And I have had 10 deputies injured. And I don't want to see any more police officers or deputy sheriffs injured or anybody else on either side of this.
Alex, you've obviously have experience in L.A. What do you make of how LA law enforcement has reacted and responded over the last week?
I would say they had a failing grade Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It took them all the way into Monday or Tuesday to finally get their feet under them. But they failed to come to the aid of ICE agents when they were under attack on Friday, when the city was under siege with violent riots on Saturday and Sunday. They failed to actually use law enforcement to go after the people that were assaulting the CHP cruisers and the officers that were hiding under a bridge, for example, on the 101. They failed to come to their aid. It took them over an hour to get there. That is, I don't know what the sheriff was thinking, or the LAPD chief. They were too concerned about optics than about actually enforcing the rule of law, because they have the resources. I have too many reports of mobile field forces sitting in parking lots twiddling their thumbs while people were breaking up, sidewalks trying to assault cops on the street. So I hope they learn their lesson and figure out, hey, intervene now, because when they failed to early on, that generated a bigger and bigger problem. This is lessons we've learned through riots throughout history. Address it early, decisively, and you calm the situation.
Alex Villanueva, the former LA County Sheriff. Alex, thank you for your insight today. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.